Hi, I just wanted to go through a few basic questions that you want to ask when you go viewing a property, should you choose to go view it by yourself or if your agent can't go with you. Number one question would be, especially if you're viewing a co-op, most often co-ops won't have the square footage listed, even though they'll have an estimate, most likely based on the floor plan. Usually when the floor plan is made, the person who drafts the floor plan is able to provide an approximate square footage. Again, usually this isn't listed, especially for co-ops, because they are selling the shares, not the actual space, and for some reason just don't feel that this is a good way to compare. Clearly in New York, we still do use it as a way to arrive at a price per square foot, which is helpful in terms of guiding what price you're paying for your property. Anyway, so sometimes you can ask the listing agent what the square footage is, and even though they will not put a stamp on it, they won't write it down, they can give you an idea, and then you can verify that by looking at the floor plan and doing some math. The second one would be, are there any assessments in the building? Assessments are extra costs that are tagged on to the maintenance fee or the common charges associated with particular projects in the building. For example, if they are redoing their hallway, if they are painting their building inside or out, if they are replacing any sort of the bones of the building or the heating structure or the cooling system, all of these would be part of an assessment, which is usually an additional fee, again, in the common charges or maintenance fees that are tagged on for a predetermined amount of time. For example, an assessment of $80 is right now on the unit that is due to last until June of next year, for example. Third question that you want to ask is, what is the subleasing policy? Again, especially when you're viewing co-ops, most co-ops don't really allow subleasing. Or if they do, there are additional fees, so tagged on to that. If they allow subleasing, what are the restrictions, number one, and are there any additional fees associated with it? Most often they'll charge more maintenance fee. They'll say, we'll charge 10% per year that you choose to. And most often subleasing, after the initial agreed period is renewed, or there may be an option to renew on a year-by-year basis. So again, this varies greatly according on the building, so make sure to ask, especially in co-ops. Condos are usually just, you can sublease however you want to for as long as you want to. Sometimes there are additional fees, most often not. Third is, what is the pet policy? Particularly important if you have little furry friends, gives you an idea of what's allowed in the building. And last but not least, is there a land lease in the building, or is this building on a land lease? What that means is that the building does not own the land that it sits on. Therefore, the maintenance or the common charges pay for that lease of the land. Most often, these land leases are for very long periods of time, 100 years or so. So it's usually rare that they are close to expiring, but most often you'll find when you see a great deal on an apartment in Midtown that's like $150,000, is usually because the land lease is coming to an end in the next few years. Number one, it makes it harder to be able to find lending for buildings like that. So banking institutions may not be as willing to lend to make purchases in a building like that, because there is some uncertainty tagged on to what will happen once the land lease ends. Now, most often these things are renegotiated, so it's usually not a problem. But again, it's a case by case, something that you want to review carefully with your lawyer, and depending on what the purpose of this property is for you. So there you have it, 4 pretty basic but very important questions that you want to ask if you find yourself having to go view properties on your own. If you have any questions about any of these or anything in the purchasing process, feel free to contact me. Thank you. Bye.